Hey everybody, it is TheJellyBeans here again, and today I am reading to you once again this book, Blizzard of the Blue Moon. I have a little red on my face, but yeah, I was at the beach today and I got sunburn, like all over my shoulders. Can't really see that. And stuff. And yeah, let's get right into it. We are reading this. You guys saw that? We are in chapter 2, and let me find it. No, we didn't get to those. Okay. So last time, what happened in the book is the tree has started to spin. They're going to New York. Everything was absolutely still. Absolutely still was the last sentence. Oh, Jesus. There's not even a hardcover on this. Like, dang. Okay. So, chapter 2, who are they? And, yeah, I think it's good. Oh, geez, my face is really red. Like, my goodness. Yeah, my face hurts a little bit. I should put on coconut oil, later on and stuff. Okay. Begin. Who are they? Snow blew into the treehouse. Jack and Annie wore wool coats and hats and mittens. Jack's canvas backpack had turned into a leather briefcase with buckles and a shoulder strap. Jack and Annie looked out the window. My face out the window. My face, my nose, it's a little stuffy, apparently. I don't know. Below the treehouse was a wide, snow-covered field that ended in a wall of evergreen trees. Beyond the trees was a city skyline. "This is definitely New York," said Annie. "See the Empire State Building? Remember our visit to the top?" She pointed to a faraway building. Man, did they like teleport to the top in another one? Oh, here's some pictures. Yeah. Jack and Annie looking out at their treehouse with the whole they're in the park apparently, and stuff that rose above the others. "This must be Central Park. I remember that big field." "Yeah, I do too," said Jack, "but we've landed in New York in 1938. It was different back then." He opened the research book and read from the introduction. "The city of New York is the largest city in the Western Hemisphere. It covers an area of 322 square miles. Jack closed the book. "Whoa, even in 1938, New York was a huge city," he said. This is going to be like looking for a needle in a haystack." Agreed. Man, their treehouse looks cool. I read our first mission poem again. "I'll read our first mission poem again," said Annie. She read the first verse aloud. "The very last unicorn is now hidden well by those who have put him under a spell." "Okay, so this unicorn was put under a spell," said Jack, "and he must be hidden somewhere in New York, or Merlin wouldn't have sent us here." Common sense. "Right," said Annie. She read the next verse. 4 centuries, 4 decades, from that afternoon at the end of November for the blue moon." Yeah. "What's a blue moon?" asked Annie, looking up. "I've heard that expression before. It's when you have 2 full moons in the same month." "All right. That's cool," said Jack. "It doesn't happen very often." "Oh," said Annie. She read on. "He will wake once more, and be free to go home, if you call out his name, Divine Flower of Rome." "Wait, does that mean the unicorn's name is Divine Flower of Rome?" asked Jack. "I guess." Wow. Oh my gosh. these kids. I know, like, I'm criticizing them a whole lot, but, you know, it's just common sense, you know? It's just common sense, and I'm cringing at it. Jesus, said Annie. She ran on. You must coax him to stand. Once his name is spoken, his chain will break and the spell to be broken. Then a young girl must love him and show him the way, lest be trapped forever on public display. Blah. If he loses his chance to rise and depart, all magic will fade from his horn to and I think it should be from his horn to his heart, but it actually says from his horn and heart and his heart. So I'm the young girl, said Annie. Jesus, his hair. I have to help him get home or his magic will fade away forever. Right, said Jack. Okay, let's review. There's a unicorn on public display in New York City. He's under a spell. The spell runs out in late November before a blue moon, but he'll only wake when someone calls his name, which divine flower room. Then a young girl, you, must love him and show him the way home. Great, said Annie. Let's get started. Wow, I'm glad they sorted this whole plan out before they go. Get started. How? Said Jack. Maybe we should talk to some New Yorkers, said Annie. We can ask them if they know anything about a unicorn in New York City. She looked out the window. There are, you know, you just don't put conjunctions like that in there. It's T-H-E-R-E there, with an apostrophe E-R-E, and I cannot pronounce that all that well. Please, why did you make this happen? Some people in the park. There are some people in the park right now. There are some people. They should just put there are. Like, that's not hard. Like, I know like the kids need to learn their conjunctions and whatnot, but seriously, why put here? I'll even show you. It's right there. Jesus. Can you see? You just don't put conjunction like that. I know I'm a little upset about this conjunction thing, but seriously, there are some people in the park right now. Jack looked out through the falling snow. He saw girls crossing the field carrying skates. He saw two people standing on top of a small hill. One wore a cape and the other a long raincoat. If we start asking people about unicorns, they'll think we're crazy, said Jack. Well, I don't really think so. They're like, what, like 10-ish, 11. Who cares, said Annie. Maybe someone will at least know something that can help us. Let's go down. He started down the ladder. Jack quickly packed up their books. He buckled his bag and followed her. When they stepped onto the ground, Jack and Annie looked around. The skaters were gone. The two people on the hill were gone too. Where'd everybody go? I don't know. Where'd everybody go? Said Jack. I don't know. But we'll find someone else. Come on, Annie, said Annie. Jeez, I cannot read. This is a late night reading. Jack and Annie started across the wide field. The snow was falling fast and furiously. The wind blew harder. These sentences. Jeez. Look, a frozen pond, said Annie, pointing. That must be where the skaters were coming from. Wet snow stuck to Jack's glasses. He wiped them off so he could see. No one was skating on the pond now. Whirlwinds of powdery snow swirled over the ice. Powdery snow. I don't know. Keep going, said Jack. They kept trudging through the snow. Hey, look, remember that? Said Annie. What? Said Jack. He wiped the snow off his glasses again. He saw a merry-go-round. Oh, yeah, on their trip to New York with their Aunt Mallory, they'd taken a ride on it. But now the riderless painted horses look sad and lonely. I feel like we're the last living creatures in Central Park, said Jack. Which way do we go now? asked Annie. Oh my gosh, I cannot pronounce words. Like, I don't know. I'm having a really tough time right now. Which way did we come from? It was hard to see anything in the white haze of falling snow. The buildings bordering the park and the skyscrapers in the distance had disappeared. And there was a picture of the carousel of Jack and Annie. Yeah, just about. Okay, cool. Let's see what our book says, said Jack. He unbuckled his leather briefcase and pulled out the research book. He found a picture of Central Park and read. Central Park is a vast natural area in the middle of New York City. The park has 32 miles of winding footpaths and covers 840 acres of land. It has rock formations, woods, and many bodies of water. It also has... Okay, got it, said Annie. It's a big park. Is there a map that shows us where we are? Jack tried to read from the index, but the wind and snow made it impossible. He stuffed the book back into the briefcase. Forget it, he said. Let's just try to get out of the park. Jack and Annie turned away from the lonely merry-go-round and walked across the snow. A gust of wind blew Jack's cap off. As he turned around to grab it, he saw a couple walking a short distance behind them. The two people looked like teenagers. They were walking with their heads bowed against the wind. The girl wore a dark cape with a hood. The boy wore a hat and a tan raincoat with a belt. You know, these people that are wearing this stuff, I feel like it's the okay. I'm trying to remember. I do remember from the other books. There's these two people that help Jack and Annie on their missions, and I'm guessing these are the two people since they're oddly dressed for this weather and stuff, and they're out of place in the story and stuff. I forget what their names are. Merlin, maybe. And that girl, Kathleen, I think. Hey, look, Jack said to Annie, but at the moment the wind shook the trees, and big clumps of snow fell from the branches. Jack and Annie ducked and covered their heads. When the wind died down, Jack looked around for the couple. They're gone now, he said. That was not an exclamation point. Okay. Who's gone? Said Annie. Who did you see? 2 teenagers, I think, said Jack. A boy and a girl. We saw them earlier from the tree house. I think they might be following us. Wait a second, said Annie. 2 teenagers? A boy and a girl? Following us? What does that remind you of? A big smile crossed Jack's face. Teddy. Okay, Teddy. I think Teddy was mentioned. Teddy and Kathleen, he said. Think about it, said Annie. On our last 3 missions, it seemed like Teddy and Kathleen were always nearby, wearing disguises, ready to help us when we needed. And we're out of place, I guess. Right, said Jack. We could sure use their help now. He turned around. Hello, he shouted. Hello, Annie yelled, but the wind answered them with a howl. More clumps of snow blew down on Jack and Annie. Let's keep going, said Annie. They'll find us sooner or later. They always do. Well, we found out who the mysterious people are. Hopefully, they are. That's good. And these kids have more common sense than, a lot of other kids I know. Not to offend anybody. Seriously, they're smart. They're like 10 and they're smart. Yeah, like, I don't think that happens. Well, I don't really see it, but, you know, it happens in books. Chapter 3, Lost in Central Park. That, tower. Oh, Jesus. I always forget the camera's up here, and I'm, like, putting the book there, and stuff. There. Jack and Annie kept walking until they came to the ice pond. Oh, this is chapter 3. Jack and Annie kept walking until they came to the ice pond again. We've been here before, said Jack. We're going in circles. How do we get out of the park? We have to try to walk in a straight line, said Annie. Annie and Jack struggled on. You know what they should do? They should get a stick. Get a stick and draw a line, and maybe that'll help. Or just drop rocks. You know, not to lose their path in the horrible weather. Annie and Jack struggled on. Jack kept looking back, trying to catch sight of Teddy and Kathleen again. But it was getting harder and harder to see anything. Wet snow kept sticking to his glasses. Snow had blown up the sleeves of his jacket, under his neck scarf, and into his mittens. Yikes, said Annie. She grabbed Jack's arm and... Look! She grabbed Jack's arm. Look! A huge wolf-like dog stood on a ledge above them, his mouth open. Whoa, said Jack. The dog didn't move. He stood perfectly still. And it's a statue, guys. Yes, no, maybe so. You got the picture. I feel like I'm showing these pictures too long. For too long. Annie laughed. Oh, he's a statue, she said. She ran to the plaque under the dog statue, brushed off the snow, and shouted to Jack. His name is Balto. In 1925, he carried medicine 600 miles through a blizzard in Alaska. From Alaska, like only in Alaska. So why is there a statue in New York? Unless he carried medicine from Alaska to New York, which seems very unlikely. Okay. I don't know. It's just whatever. It's really great, said Jack. But how do we get out of the park? Well, if we follow this path, it's bound to lead us somewhere, said Annie. Jack followed Annie up a wide path. They walked and walked, passing a snow-covered outdoor stage and a fountain with the statue of an angel. Rising her outspread wings, the angel seemed about to fly away. Which way now? Said Jack. 2 paths led away from the angel fountain. One on to the right, one to the left. I don't know, said Annie. Pick one. Jack headed to the left. Annie followed. They passed a frozen lake and walked over an arched bridge. Jack kept his eyes on the ground and walked and walked and walked. Every time he lifted his head, the snow felt like needles against his skin. Man, they must be walking for like hours. Jack tried to keep walking in a straight line, but the path they were following began twisting and turning like a maze. Different paths branched off, curving this way and that. Jack remembered information from the research book. The park has 32 miles of winding footpaths. We have got to get off these paths, he shouted to Annie, or we'll be lost in Central Park forever. Annie didn't answer. Annie! Jack shielded his face from the cutting wind and looked back. He didn't see her. Jack turned around and around, looking for Annie. They should have really held hands. Or, like, they had scarves. Could have done that. But I guess holding hands would have been better. Jack turned around and around, looking for Annie, but he couldn't see anything. The world was completely white. Annie! He cried. Had she gone off on another path? Was she lost? Annie! She could wander around in the storm for hours, thought Jack. She could freeze to death. I have to find her. Jack tried to stay calm. He took a few breaths. A rhyme, he thought. He couldn't remember which magic rhymes were left. He struggled to unbuckle his briefcase. His fingers felt frozen. He felt out the book and hunched over, and trying to shelter it from the storm, he wiped his glasses off and read. Turn into ducks. That wouldn't help. Pull a cloud from the sky. That would only make things worse. Find a treasure you must never lose. Is Annie a treasure? Jack wondered. He'd He'd always thought of a treasure as something super valuable, like gold or silver or rare jewels, but right now Annie seemed more valuable than any of those things. She seemed like the most valuable thing in the world. Jack found the rhyme and shouted, "Treasure forever must never be lost. Umatha, matha, matha, mata, kel, mata, bast." Yep. Jack whirled around. Annie was standing right behind him. "There you are," she said. "I was afraid you got lost." "I wasn't lost," said Jack. "You were lost." He slipped the rhyme book back into his briefcase. "Not me, you," said Annie. "Whatever," said Jack. "Just stay near me now." He took her hand and gripped it tightly. "Okay, let's figure out what to do." "Wait, is that a castle over there?" said Annie. "A what?" said Jack. "A castle. Look." Peering through the storm, Jack saw a small castle sitting on top of a snowy hill. A light burned in a window. "A castle in Central Park?" said Jack. "That's weird. Let's go and see if anyone's inside," said Annie. "Maybe they can help us. People in a castle might know about unicorns." Nice logic there, Annie. "Or at least know how to get out of the park," said Jack. And here is Jack and Annie walking up to the castle. Not a really good picture, but yeah. How many pages? Not too many. Jack and Annie struggled up the stone steps that led back to the castle. At the top of the steps, Jack glanced back at the park. He could barely make out two figures in the snow, one in a dark cape and one in a raincoat. It's them," said Jack. "I need some water." Yeah, I need water. A cloud of wind-driven snow blew over the couple. Jack, let me get you, kept looking eager for another glimpse of the two young enchanters, but the snow hid everything in sight. "They'll find us," said Annie. "Come on." She pushed open the door to the castle and led the way inside. The door slammed shut behind him. Jack and Annie stood in a dimly lit hallway. "'Cause you should always just walk into someone's house or you should totally walk into an abandoned building or some random building you don't really know of, and that you see something inside. So let's go and find out." Yeah, that's common sense. "Hello, who's there?" a man called. "Jack and Annie," shouted Annie. A tall, thin man came down a curving stone stairway. He wore an old-fashioned blue striped suit. "Goodness, 2 children," he said. "What are you doing out here on a day like today?" "We got lost in the park," said Jack. "My name's Jack, and this is my sister Annie. Pleased to meet you. I'm Bill Perkins," said the man. "Welcome to Belvedere Castle." "What is this place?" said Annie. "The castle was built in 1869, said Mr. Perkins. "It was meant to be a delighted surprise when one wandered the park. Today it's a delightful surprise with a nature observatory and weather instruments inside." "Weather instruments?" said Jack. "Yes, I come from the U.S. Weather Bureau to check them," said Mr. Perkins. "I'm afraid right now our data is telling us that weather's undergoing a rapid and terrible change." Jack shivered in his damp clothes. "Our data is telling us the same thing," he said. "A storm's blown in from the Midwest, bringing wind and snow," said Mr. Perkins. "But after nightfall, things will get worse. Another storm is coming from the south, gathering speed on its way." "That sounds serious," said Annie. "It's worse than serious," Mr. Perkins said. It's disastrous. After dark, the two systems will meet and create a monster blizzard. It could be the worst in New York history, even worse than the blizzard of '88. Jack caught his breath. "Poor New York," said Annie. "Ah, yes, the last thing our great city needs during these hard times," said Mr. Perkins, shaking his head. "Excuse me, but I have a question," said Annie. "Do you know if there's a full moon tonight?" "Well, yes, there is," said Bill Perkins. "You won't see it, though, not through these storm clouds. Actually, it'll be the second full moon this month." A blue moon, said Annie. You're exactly right, a blue moon indeed, said Mr. Perkins. I have another question, said Annie. Do you know where we can find, any unusual animals? Jack interrupted. On public display anywhere in New York City? Well, your best bet is New York, which would be the Bronx Zoo, said Mr. Perkins. They display all kinds of animals from all over the world. Great, said Annie. How do we get there? What? You can't go to the zoo today, said Mr. Perkins. Not in this storm. No, of course not, Jack said quickly. But if we ever decide to go to the zoo, in the future, how would we get there? Well, the best way would be to take the West Side IRT, said Mr. Perkins. What's that? Said Jack. A subway line that runs up the West Side, said Mr. Perkins. The number 2 train on that line will take you to the Bronx Zoo. Oh, great, thanks for everything, said Jack. We'd better get going. He and Annie stepped toward the door. Wait, there's a telephone upstairs. Tell me, ring up your parents. Perhaps they can come and get you, said Mr. Perkins. Well, said Annie, we haven't lived here very long, and we don't have a telephone yet. Oh my god, my throat is like dry a little bit. She was right, said Jack, but it's not far to where we live. We just need to get out of the park, to the street, to the west side, said Annie. Yeah, the west side, said Jack. Can you tell us how to get there from here? Certainly. Mr. Perkins opened the door. Wind and snow blasted inside as he pointed to the right. Across the terrace and then walk down the stairs to a path. That path will take you out of the park to the 81st Street, he said. Hurry home now. We will, said Jack. Thanks a lot, Mr. Perkins, said Annie, and she and Jack headed out into the blizzard. That is the end of the 2 chapters. I don't want to make 10 parts of this, so I read 2 chapters today. There's not many pages in here. I'm gonna say there's 100-ish. 6, 8, 9. Pen. Okay, so there's 105 pages of this. We're on page 35. That's not much. That's only 70-ish pages. 80. 70, 80. I know how to add. Anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed the book. Here's the last part. Yeah. Anyway. Chapter 4, Hard Times. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy my, reading time, late nights with the Jelly Beans. And, I don't really have anything else to say. I will see you in the next episode, I guess, and